This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Today I want to bring to life what I think Cadillac would look like in Formula 1. Now I know it sounds unlikely, but this series is all about making the unlikely likely. So they're actually teaming up with Andretti in the pursuit to join the FIA Formula 1 World Championship. Oh, cool. It's not confirmed yet, but since Mohammed Ben Sulayem's call out for potential new teams to come into F1, on Twitter, Andretti Cadillac have gone live with their intention to do so. Let's say it does happen. What would that team actually look like? Anticipating a 2024 entry, because why not? That is what Andretti was planning in the first place. Engine supplier, headquarters, team principal, drivers, sponsors, race suits, and of course, the livery. I've got a bit more to go on than I usually do, but there's still plenty of unknowns. Let's make this happen. But first of all, the justification. Why Cadillac in Formula 1? Again, based off what we actually know to be true, but also what my opinion is. Starting with what we would call a fact, right? Andretti are going for an F1 bid, but don't have the big money of a manufacturer behind them. But now they do, and that manufactures Cadillac. Or more importantly, General Motors, GM, who own Cadillac. Andretti, of course, is a historic racing team, particularly out of the States, but also Mario Andretti, the dad, 1978 F1 world champion, Michael Andretti, the son who's leading this bid to get into Formula 1, 1993 F1 driver at McLaren alongside Ayrton Senna. There is pedigree there from both the father and the son. Andretti is synonymous with motorsport, no question. They made their intentions clear early on last year, probably even sooner than them. They made them clear when they attempted to purchase Sauber, in fact, which never materialised, and then Audi swooped in. Fan reception to an Andretti bid has been overwhelmingly positive. I'm sure most of you watching would support it. I certainly support it. Not just because it's Andretti, but also expanding the grid generally. 11 teams, 2 more seats. We talk all the time about all these drivers who deserve a seat in F1, who have earned a seat in F1, but don't get it. Well, 22 instead of 20. It's 2 more opportunities. To bring that World Championship name back into Formula 1, you look at what Bruce McLaren was able to do to take his name in the sport and build this foundational team. Maybe Andretti wants to do the same and leave that same impact on F1 going forward. Now, the initial resistance to Andretti coming to the table was seemingly, from the outside looking in anyway, more to do with the fact that they're a privateer team. They don't necessarily have the backing, the support to be a serious entry. There were fears that you look at HRT, Virgin, Marussia from the early mid-2010s. There was no way they were going to get anywhere near the front and anywhere near competitive. There's a degree of valid fear that an Andretti entry might be the same. Having the support of GM Cadillac, bringing them to the table as well behind Andretti should alleviate a lot of those fears, because again, you look at Haas, their debut season in 2016, they went straight into the midfield. It can be done, and that was pre-budget cap era, by the way, as well. So with that $135 million cap in 2023, it should in theory be much simpler for teams to come out of nowhere and jump into the sport. 2023 is a new year, which means new opportunity. Today's video sponsor, Squarespace, might just offer you that opportunity. If you want to build your very own bespoke, purpose-built website, whether you want a blog, a portfolio, you've got an online business, or just for a bit of fun, doesn't matter. Squarespace is the perfect place to host your little online home. 24/7 customer support, thousands of beautiful, super easy to use drag and drop templates. I've been using them for years, long predating my YouTube channel, so I can sit here and proudly support what they do. Best thing is you can give it a go completely free of charge. It's only when you want to put your finished site live to the world that you have to pay anything, and when that time inevitably comes around, head to squarespace.com/TommoF1 for 10% off your first website or domain. There's also rumours that Michael Andretti has been maybe a little bit too vocal in the minds of some, put a few noses out of place. I don't know. That's just kind of paddock rumours. But if you annoy the people in F1, it's a very closed shop. Word spreads quite quickly. 9 of the 10 teams apparently have said they don't support an 11th team being Andretti anyway. So you look at the prize pool, there was all the talk last year of Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, they finished level on constructors, but the fact that Valtteri got a best result of P5 at Imola, shout out if you watch my big fat quiz because you'll know that one. The difference between finishing P6 and P7 in the constructors was $12 million. That's how much extra money Alfa Romeo Sauber got than Aston Martin. Now when you take that total prize pool and divide it between 11 teams instead of 10, obviously, everyone gets a little bit less than they would have previously. So, the latest version of the Concord Agreement, it was agreed if any new team wants to come in, they have to stump up $200 million that would be divided between all the teams, so 20 mil apiece. But now, because of the increased value, which, I mean, is fair enough, I guess, to an extent anyway, of Formula One worldwide, a lot of the teams are like, 200 mil is not enough. You know, it's 20 mil each. When I guess when you break it down to 20 mil each, it doesn't sound quite as significant when you realise, you know, the budget cap's going to be 135 million. Back pre-budget cap, you had the top team spending close to, if not $400 million a year, according to some numbers. If you had to balance between keeping it 10 cars and having 20 million less, or getting 20 million, but having one more competitor who could potentially overtake you or crash into you, and also take a slice of the pie which isn't necessarily going to grow, it should grow. I don't see why it wouldn't grow in line with the sport getting bigger, but say it doesn't grow. I understand it from a team point of view who have got to protect their own personal interest, why they would be against it. I get it. And then also on top of that, in terms of resistance factors, and this is the one I would say maybe agree with the most in terms of a resistance factor anyway, is the idea that, you know, say Porsche or Honda or Hyundai, maybe. They've all been rumoured to be interested in entering Formula One, maybe from 2026. If you're going to expand the grids to 12 teams, 12 seems about right. That seems the number that most people, anyway, I put a poll out on Twitter and most people seem to agree that 12 teams, 24 cars is spot on. So if you're only going to have 2 fresh slots, if you fill one of those slots urgently with the first team that comes knocking, and Andretti have made a lot of noise, what if then also Honda, who have got loads of F1 history and are a huge manufacturer, and Porsche, who would be super exciting to see as well, what if they both come to the table with actual proper manufacturer supported programs? If Andretti, Cadillac are already there, you can only accommodate one of them. And fair enough, F1 shareholders want to maximize the product. Once you get to 13, 14, 15 teams, I mean, 30 cars around Monaco, like, come on now. Part of it is definitely that Cadillac maybe feels like it's a little bit of an Alfa Romeo in terms of like Sauber run the actual team. Alfa Romeo are a glorified title sponsor essentially. However, there have also been quotes from, you know, Cadillac higher ups saying that this is more than just a title sponsorship. It's an actual technical program that GM are going to be putting a lot of money and focus and car development into. Remains to be seen, but I understand the skepticism towards this one, and I certainly understand F1 maybe biding their time, waiting. You know, I was taking everyone's offers and what MBS has put out on Twitter, putting the call out to the world. We'll see if Porsche, Hyundai, Honda, Lamborghini, Ford, whoever, if anyone else comes to the table, bring them on and then decide from there. But certainly the racing history, the name of Andretti, the fact that Haas were able to come in and do so well pre-budget cap, and the fact that they've got at least some support from GM, I've got no doubt Andretti could come in, could do bits, and it's a name I would love to see in the sport. The second point, and this is kind of more my opinion, but I think Cadillac is one of those brands that's crying out for a worldwide, openly facing rebrand, essentially. Now, obviously, I'm talking from a UK point of view. Cadillac only seem to sell cars in the US, so my perception isn't aligned with what Cadillac actually do these days, which is actually make really nice performance cars and have lots of activity in motorsport. Whereas to someone like me, I just think of the old Escalade in Need for Speed Underground 2 and Sopranos and every car magazine with the big spinners and all that on it. Like, that's not a performance car. Luxury, sure. Expensive, sure. But certainly not performance. Their V-line covers the CT4, the CT5. The Lyric is a proper fancy-looking electric SUV. And the Celestiq looks absolutely bonkers, mate. It's a proper futuristic, aggressive motor. As for their motorsport activities, well, if you were keeping an eye on Kevin Magnussen when he had his year out of F1 in 2021, he was racing a Cadillac. In the US, in IMSA, a Ganassi-run DPI. If Cadillac have any desire to expand outside of the US, which when you look at the GM brand list, they've only really got Buick, GMC, Cadillac, and Chevrolet, then associating themselves with Formula One, with the top tier motorsport in the world, will help shift their brand image away from chonky, fat, luxury Escalade to the actual performance cars that they are delivering today in 2023. Mercedes was exactly the same. You go back to the late 90s, you look at what Mercedes-Benz were producing. They were big, luxurious, expensive, for old business people, basically. Sure, some of their DTM cars at the time were cool, but in terms of their road-going cars, they weren't cool. They weren't doing what BMW were doing at the time. However, with the help of F1, they've been able to reshape their brand image. And you look at Mercedes today, they're every bit as performance, every bit as cool as what BMW, Audi, what maybe even Porsche do as well, considering Porsche have expanded into SUVs and that, whereas Mercedes have added a lot more performance stuff like the SLS that can challenge a 911. Okay, I'm sorry, I've waffled enough about my opinions and thoughts around Cadillac Andretti. Coming into F1, what about this actual team? What does this 2024 team look like? Starting with a name, I'm putting Cadillac ahead of Andretti because they would essentially be functioning as a title sponsor. I'm very much looking at this through the guise of Alfa Romeo, Sauber, F1 team. Orlen, they put Orlen on the end as well, didn't they? But for me, it's definitely going to lead Cadillac. They need to push Cadillac. Cadillac needs to be front and center if they're actually going to get this deal over the line. You got Oracle Red Bull Racing, you got MoneyGram Haas F1 team, and you've even got Avalanche Andretti Formula E team. So there's already a bit of precedent there as well. Okay, let's start with the engine, and it does seem pretty clear where this is going. The only team of the 10 on the grid who seem to be open to Cadillac Andretti joining Formula One is Renault/Alpine. A deal has been done, seemingly, to supply Cadillac Andretti with engines. I guess they get a bit more presence on another car, and I'm sure, having customer teams makes you a bit more money as well. There have been talks of Honda potentially, or should I say Red Bull powertrains, but there is an Andretti-Honda relationship, as we know, in IndyCar. Everyone's running either a Honda or a Chevrolet power unit. Ironic, because Chevrolet is also owned by... Oh, yeah, they could actually do that, couldn't they? Now, they'd have to make a whole new engine and bring that over, so that's not going to happen. But the reason I don't think that would get in the way of a Renault engine deal is that, well, that relationship already existed. If Andretti were going to do that, they would have gone to Honda/Red Bull powertrains and brokered that deal already. Like, Cadillac coming in doesn't really impact that at all. So I'm sticking. The Cadillac F1 team will be powered by Renault engines. Just don't blow up. Don't keep blowing up. Be reliable, please. I beg you, please. As for the headquarters, well, work has already begun on their 575,000 square foot Indiana, USA base, with a UK-based facility there to complement, just like Haas do, for example. They've got their US, UK, and Italian base, actually. They're proper shelling out. This new headquarters will be in Fishers, Indiana, a 25-mile drive from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The plan is it will host not just Andretti's F1 team, but all of their, NASCAR, IndyCar, everything else that they do. They do tons. But at least in terms of short term, the UK facility won't just be a kind of satellite base. It will actually be where the engineering side is focused, because I guess most people with F1 experience are based out of the UK or Europe at least. So having their engineering heart there to at least start with until they can hire that kind of quality in the States certainly makes sense. Now, they only broke ground on that site recently. It's not due to be finished until 2025, so it's still quite a way off down the line, kind of the position that Aston Martin were in, I guess, kind of a couple of years ago. Andretti already have their Formula E team base in Banbury, actually, right in Motorsport Valley. So I imagine their UK base would kind of be in that vicinity as well. I'd love to say it'll be somewhere a bit different, but I don't think that's going to happen because, again, they want the talent to be able to commute to their base and leave other teams, They should be able to get this UK base off the ground much quicker than the big Indiana facility. Don't genuinely be surprised if we see them join in 2024. I think it's probably a bit of a long shot. I think more 2025. But in this not real life video, let's assume it's 2024 and let's assume they start in Banbury. Beautiful facility coming soon, hopefully. We'll see. Team principal time, and it just kind of has to be Michael Andretti, doesn't it, really? He is the man at the helm. He's the man at the sharp end. He is Mario's son. He's got that pedigree. He's got that legacy. He's got that desire to get into F1. He's come out with some feisty statements. He was saying today about how, this resistance is born of greed, which isn't helping. Michael, you need approval from these teams, which I don't agree that the team should have the power to veto this, but you clearly do need the approval of Formula One. So don't start throwing stones. You kind of have to just bite your tongue and pretend to be all pally until you're through the door. Once you're through the door, yeah, feel free to throw all the you like, man, but play this strategically. Come on, Michael. Michael stopped full-time racing back in 2003. That's when he first started to move into kind of team management as such, although he still would do Indy 500s plenty of times. And a bit more about his F1 career, actually. He retired 7 times in 13 races in that 1993 season, with just one podium in his final race before he got replaced by Mika Hakkinen for the last few races of the season at Monza. Bear in mind, in that first 13 races, Ayrton won 3 and was P2 twice. That 93 McLaren wasn't a great car. Part of the reason why Ayrton moved to Williams, yet he was still able to deliver phenomenal performances. But then he was Ayrton Senna, so that kind of comes with the territory. Mattia Binotto, yeah, sure, I scared a lot of you on Twitter when I kind of photoshopped the image together of Mattia in Andretti Clobber, but it seems that Ferrari have put him on a 12-month gardening leave. I mean, maybe ahead of 2024 he could come in at Andretti as a technical role, but he couldn't for the next 12 months, which I think, stifle any opportunity and chance of him going there. My Cadillac Andretti F1 team principal is Michael Andretti. Driver. Right. This is based purely off my personal vibes here, okay? I know Colton Herta has been brought up a lot. You lot know, if you've watched all my videos, and every time I've talked about Colton, I've been incredibly complimentary. I think he's an incredible talent. Still a bit rough around the edges, but Colton, man, you're most of the way there. The speed is there. There's no doubt in my mind. And the main reason he's been brought up so much, well, Andretti have said they want at least one American driver in their team. And also, he already races for Andretti in IndyCar. So that relationship is already more than established. The problem for Herta is the same problem that stopped him getting that AlphaTauri seat, is that he doesn't have enough super license points. The FIA and Formula One aren't prepared to change that, seemingly. And if we're looking ahead to 2024, Colton's position to get a seat is even weaker than it was to try and get a seat for this year. You need 40 super license points to get into Formula One, and it looks at the results from your last 3 seasons. So it's not your whole history of racing. Colton's result that was bringing him the most super license points was his 2020 result in IndyCar, where he finished P3. In 2024, they'll only look at 23, 22, 21. So 2020 might as well have never happened. Not from a super license point of view anyway. So unless they change the system, Colton is going to have to absolutely smash it in 2023. Even if he finishes second in IndyCar this season, that's only 30 points. Not the end of the world, because as we saw from Logan Sargent last year, you can do FP1 runouts as an F1 rookie and accrue super license points that way. So yeah, P2 combined with that, he'd do some, tests maybe with McLaren, maybe with Renault if they're, supplying the engine. I'm sure they'd be prepared to potentially help him out. It's silly, because I think he's proven he's got the ability. But that's the way it is, and the FIA aren't budging. So who else? Who else is American and would have the super license? Well, obviously Logan Sargent. Unproven, I guess. It's very difficult to know where Logan's going to be relative to Alex. I think he'll do a good job. I think he'll do a better job than Latifi, no doubt. But will he be exciting enough? And will that prospect for Logan to go to Andretti be exciting enough? I think it would be, because Williams are looking like a bit of a sinking ship at the minute. They're still not got a new team principal. What is Alex going to be like, player manager next year? What's going on with him? Sort it out, man. So Logan's definitely a maybe. However, there is a name, someone who's never drove in F1 before, but who I think surely has to put themselves right in the sharp end of a potential seat. Surely. An IndyCar stalwart who in the last 6 seasons has only finished outside the top 2 once. So he won it and finished second 4 times in arguably the most competitive motorsport series, I'm going to say it, in the world, because it's certainly more competitive than Formula One because it's a spec series. Joseph Newgarden deserves a shot at Formula One. He has done more than enough to earn the opportunity, and he has plenty of super license points. He's got them coming out of his ears. He would walk into that fine. 32-year-old might seem, oh, it's a bit old for a rookie. But you know what? Like, I just think IndyCar is such a learning experience. You get such a variety of tracks. And we saw how well Alex Palou did when he jumped into that McLaren in FP1 at Austin. Certainly a better job than Antonio Giovinazzi did in the Haas. Sorry, mate, but it's kind of true. Newgarden would be a phenomenal little pickup. There is another alternative. An American driver of similar age with F1 experience as well, actually. You're younger than Joseph Newgarden. Alexander Rossi. He's been in IndyCar for a while now, not putting the levels of Joseph Newgarden out there. He has more European experience. He finished second, actually, in GP2 in 2015 in a Van Dorn Sorokin sandwich. And then went on to have multiple years of F1 experience. Now, that does come with a big caveat because he was test driver for Caterham and Marussia from 2012 to 2014. And then he did have a seat at Manor briefly in 2015. These were those silly teams just knocking about at the back, not actually doing anything. So how valuable was that experience and how much should that be considered when looking at him as a new potential F1 driver? Not really. There is another name, and mentioned him earlier, in terms of a Cadillac relationship anyway, Kevin Magnussen, again, raced with Cadillac in 2021, has tons of F1 experience. Obviously, is that one American team would be potentially moving to another American team. Do I think the potential ceiling of Andretti Cadillac is higher than Haas? Yes. So do I think that would be an opportunity for Kevin? Potentially. It would also be a big risk, especially going there for his first season. Who knows what Haas are going to go on and do. But again, that GM factor might just sway Kevin to take the opportunity. And then also reserve driver, can't leave them out. I'm actually going to say Jack Doohan, because if they're going to be running Renault engines, then I think running a Renault Alpine Junior makes a lot of sense. And, you know, Jack has achieved enough super license points to take that role. Or at least he almost certainly will once the 2023 season is complete and he's done a few FP1 settings. He's already got like 35 of the 40 points he needs as of right now. So all that considered, my 2024 Cadillac Andretti F1 team will be made up with Joseph Newgarden, Kevin Magnussen and Jack Doohan in reserve. One more category before we get onto the visual stuff, and I want to talk about sponsors. Who's going to pay the bills for this new team? Goes without saying, big Cadillac logo, big Andretti logo as well. But then what about other brands? Because Andretti run 3 Indy cars last year, all with completely different liveries. So they've got relationships with a lot of different brands, and I am leaning on that for this, starting with Gamebridge, who outfit Colton Herta's car. Gamebridge are an online annuity agency, whatever that means. And they actually do have a bit of a Formula 1 connection because Miami Grand Prix 2022, they served as a founding partner. Again, whatever that means. So I'm chucking them on the car in a pretty significant way. Then you look at one of their other cars, Napa Tool Company. They're on Alex Rossi's car. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Alex Rossi also has a connection with Andretti. So that also stands him a good chance for that seat. Maybe more than Newgarden because of that relationship. We'll see. Napa aren't just a presence in the US, which I think is important if you're going to be on a globally facing, sport like Formula 1. They run a BTCC car, actually. They've made it to Europe, so let's stick them on the car as well. Finally, Romain Grosjean's Indy car last year, sponsored by DHL. DHL are already partnered with Formula 1. Do I think that would be an issue? Not really. It's like you've got Aramco on the Aston Martin, but also on the billboards everywhere now because of that oil money. So if they can do it, why can't DHL also be on a car? There was potentially an argument for putting on some of GM's other brands like Buick, like Chevrolet, like GMC, but I just feel that would undermine Cadillac being there in the first place. I think they've got to just go all in on Cadillac. They've picked their brand from the GM pool. They just go all in now. But I did ask on my community tab, so if you're not subscribed, check you're subscribed so you can get involved in these videos in the future for some suggestions of sponsors for this car. So I've also chucked on Amex, American Express, Walmart, WeatherTech, who sponsor Laguna Seca, and Ali, who have a big presence in US motorsport. They all joined the party as well. Thank you for your recommendations. And now it's time to look at the visual stuff. Let's take a look, first of all, at the racing overalls I have designed for the drivers to wear in their Cadillac Andretti Formula 1 car. Colour palette first and foremost might seem a bit random, but there is method to my madness, I promise. When you look at the Cadillac logo, when it's in colour anyway, the classic Cadillac colours, they have a silver base, they have black, they have blue, they have red, they have yellow. But with any motorsport design, you've got to prioritize the fact that this is a billboard. So how are you bringing maximum legibility to the brands that are on there? Hence why I've gone with the white and the black as the kind of base, and I've only used the colors as kind of little hints just to accentuate the details. Sparco race suits because they use Sparco in IndyCar. Cadillac, Gamebridge, Napa, GM, Andretti all make the move over to the race suits. Cadillac up the legs. Smart, you know? Nothing too crazy. These look like NASCAR overalls. These look very American, I think, which suits, you know, all American F1 team. You want to get that vibe. I played around with a few different compositions, but this is the one I settled on, and I'm quite happy with how these are looking. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you rate these? And finally, the time is here, what I'm sure many of you have been waiting for, hence why I put it at the end, for audience retention, because this is YouTube and I have to monetize this because it's my job. And thank you all for making this my job, because I literally love what I do. Let's have a look at my 2024 Cadillac Andretti F1 car. The overalls kind of gave away the colour palette, and again, in terms of balance, in terms of colour balance, I've gone pretty much identical. Also leaning on the fact that so many cars in 2022 shed their livery as the season went on, because less paint means less weight. So all black front wing, all black rear wing, a lot of black on the kind of side pods, but you know, mainly one colour going on, which is this light grey. Picked to replicate the kind of chrome silver on the Cadillac logo. Andretti and Cadillac both get prime position on the side. To be fair, I do actually think in real life Cadillac would probably be where Andretti is and Andretti where Cadillac is, but just visually I preferred it in this composition, so deal with it. I've kept Amex, Napa, DHL full colour because the colours in those logos match and work with the rest of the colours on the car. I didn't see a reason to change that, and it makes the brands happier if they're in their actual sponsor colours, you know. Got WeatherTech, GM, Walmart as well. A few of those other brands are kind of smaller logo. I needed some smaller logos to incorporate alongside the bigger, more kind of title brands. And yeah, it's probably not my most creative livery. You know, a lot of the composition kind of follows the lines of this car. But this is the first one of these I've done for a while, and I've got to warm up for all my redesigns that I like to do in February. Oh my God, that's like the busiest time of the year for me. I'm going to do my best to keep up, but there's going to be some long nights. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of my livery? Do you rate it? Do you not rate it? That's a wrap. Thank you again for watching. Like, subscribe. Cheers Squarespace for sponsoring what I do. My name's Tommo. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.